America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The heart of Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book.
I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sins.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to
Believe It
or Not,
the show where we believe it.
Or maybe there's a chance we don't.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 chance one way or the other, you know, how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
For those of you who actually listen, you know that that's not the case, and more often than not, we don't.
We don't.
That being said, we like to cover our bases in case maybe one of us does,
maybe
or
someday.
someone who's listening do.
Yeah.
Does or do.
So, Damien, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you, Trevor?
I'm doing okay. It's my last week at my job.
Yeah, then soon you'll be one of the unemployed masses.
One of the unemployed masses.
Must feel so free.
Free, footloose and fancy free,
Yeah,
I'd say.
That's true.
Yeah, we'll see.
Are you going to start just trading items and bartering?
Yeah, buns and stuff.
Yeah, like going into the No Frills and saying, like, I'll trade you this desk lamp for a cantaloupe.
Oh, yeah. Or like, you know, that game where you start with like a paper clip and then you trade up.
Yeah, well, there was a guy who didn't he get a house?
A guy got a house.
Within like 9 trades?
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. I have no idea how you do that.
No, but
I couldn't do it.
I might have to.
I feel like he probably had people like who knew what was going on. They were kind of like, "This is fun. I'll do it for your fun experiment."
Well, I think the house he had to move to a different town, and it was the town gave it to him as a way to promote their town as like it'll get media attention. I think that's how it.
Okay, so then that guy's thing is a pack of lies.
Yeah, and he can burn in hell for all I care.
So you know what? I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed off now.
I am pissed.
Listen, if you're that trade guy who traded 9 things or whatever for a house, I want to talk to you. Okay? So open up your ear holes. Mm-hmm. That was bullshit.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Moving on.
But another thing that we could, when we were recording this, what time of year is it usually?
Wait. What?
What time of year is it usually at this time of year? Back to school.
Okay.
Back to school.
The way you phrased that
was really clever.
Was unbelievably confusing.
Yeah. To prove to my dad that I'm not a fool.
When we record, what time of year is it usually? All year? I don't know.
We record all year. No, this time of year, it's usually back to school, but everything's up in the air right now.
Well, not in some places.
Yeah. Some places already went back to school, and then they had outbreaks, and
then they stopped going back to school. And then they'll have to go back to school.
Yeah, we have school starting next week here in Ontario. We'll see how safe that is. It's all scary. One option, though, you may say to yourself, hey, here's one thing I can do to make sure my kids are educated, is what if we homeschool them?
No.
That's an option.
If you want to raise a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about raising a weirdo. We're talking Christian homeschooling.
I hope I'm not offending any homeschooled people out there. But you have to admit that there generally seems to be a certain amount of socialization that does go on in the public and schooling systems that don't necessarily always make its way into the homeschooled system. Especially this
Christian fundamentalist homeschooling.
Oh, boy. That's a good way to fuck your kids up for life.
Yes, it is. So, yeah, and I do want to start by saying, too, that I know there are times when homeschooling works, and there's times where it's done right, and the kids turn out fine, but that's not what we're talking about today.
I would also say the majority of the time the people are very vastly underqualified to teach children.
Yeah, 100%.
Everything that they need to learn.
100%.
There's a reason we have educators.
Yeah, that's the thing, is people go to school to learn how to teach your kids. And of course, there's some idiot teachers.
Oh, yeah.
But,
well, you're going to get that in anything.
Yeah, exactly. But then over the years, you get multiple teachers, and you're getting multiple points of views, and you're getting, you know?
Yeah, you're getting a variety.
Yeah. And with homeschooling, not as much.
No, you're getting one ideal from one person hammered into your little brain.
Yeah.
And you don't have friends that you can complain about it with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because you can't go home after school to complain about it.
Yeah,
because you already are home.
Yeah, and that is a big issue. Like,
can you have homework when you're homeschooling? Isn't it just regular work?
That's a good question. Or is it like any work that's not done in the school part of the house, like the kitchen or whatever, is homework?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I figured we'll talk a little bit about the history of homeschooling, and then talk about how it became so popular with fundamentalists and some of the dangers.
I think I have a feeling why it became so popular with the fundamentalists is because they have control over what their children are learning.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all it is.
It's
if you are an extremist group and you're choosing to homeschool, the reason you're choosing to homeschool is to indoctrinate your children.
Yeah, 100%.
Whether you believe that or not, that is what you're doing.
Yeah, there's we'll get into some more of the nuance of it, but that's basically it.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously in the past, homeschooling, like back in the day, homeschooling was just kind of the way it was before there was public schools, or before there was schools that you could send your kids to. You're teaching your kids at home.
Yes.
And then schools become a thing. And
right.
Then in America and a lot of countries, it was just the way you did it. You sent your kids to school. Homeschooling wasn't a thing unless maybe you live on a farm and there's no towns around. Yeah. Maybe then you're gonna.
There are reasons for homeschooling, and it can be done right.
Yeah. Maybe you're the Robinsons and you're stuck on an island. And
Swiss Family.
The Swiss Family Robinson.
But they're not American, are they?
That's true. They're Swiss. But for the most part, you send your kids to school. There's truancy laws. You don't send your kids to school. The truancy officer comes and says, you got to send your kid to school.
Do they still have truancy officers?
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
I've never met one.
I have.
Really?
I had a family member who had extreme anxiety and skipped school a lot as a result.
Okay.
And she's doing great now.
Yeah.
And very smart.
Is it just like a regular officer police officer who deals with truancy, or is it its own?
I think it's its own
job.
thing. Yeah, it's its
What a
own.
weird
It probably
job.
depends on the place, but yeah, that is a weird job.
How would you? Do you want to be the kid cop?
Yeah.
I guess that's the true kindergarten cop.
Smart. Good thought. But in the 60s and 70s, this guy named John Holt, he was a teacher. And
John Holt.
And a teacher and a education, like literature writer. So he...
Yeah, could you fumble education one more time for me, please?
He was an educational writing man. And
an educational author?
Yeah, he wrote books on education. And he wrote a book called Growing Without School. And his idea, it wasn't from like a fundamentalist Christian idea. He just thought that some kids have different learning styles.
Yeah.
And some kids need special attention. Some kids will just do better in a homeschooling environment. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
That is totally fair.
Yeah. And so he kind of started doing curriculums around that and started promoting the idea of homeschooling. But at the time, homeschooling was illegal in most states, and you could get charged for not having your kids in school.
See, I think there's a benefit to that, especially with some of the problems with the public school systems and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it, like hanging around testing and standardized testing, and how those things kind of don't really cater to a lot of learning styles.
Yeah.
And a lot of children end up getting left behind because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, like, my nephew had to go from school to school till like he found one where they had a program that was helpful to him.
Yeah, because I mean, these things they're so varied.
Yeah.
For some kids.
It took off in Canada too, still illegal here until 1982 when our Charter of Rights and Freedoms was created, and that included protection for homeschoolers. Yeah. Which is interesting. I didn't know that before, but I've also never read the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So.
See, this is one thing I want to say first. I don't necessarily think I would be qualified to teach a child.
No, me neither.
Because I'm not a teacher. But at the same time, I don't think I would want to teach my child.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny that I just like quickly said, "Yeah, me neither." When that's what my degree was in.
But you understand.
Still, I understand too.
Well, was yours in?
But teaching them about God.
Yeah. It was a specialized subject.
Yeah.
In a specialized area.
Yeah.
And you haven't done it in, I guess it's been what, 10 years?
No.
Longer? Less?
11 years. Yeah.
11 years. So, I mean, if you all of a sudden had a, like a 5-year-old kid and you're like, well, I better teach them everything.
No. No, thank you.
And that's not saying that we're a couple of idiots.
Yeah.
I mean, some might say we are, but, I think
I've read the reviews.
Yeah, I think we're reasonably competent adults. I don't know. There's something really strange about a parent thinking like, I can teach them better than all these people who are qualified to teach.
Yeah, exactly. In the 70s, Raymond Moore, this guy named Raymond Moore, and his wife Dorothy started really promoting homeschooling, but with the emphasis on, hey, guess what? You homeschool your kids. You can avoid them learning things that aren't Christian, and they don't have to learn about evil things like evolution.
Right.
And
so it's a head in the sand.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that starts to become more popular and starts to build, the Christian homeschooling curriculum. By the 80s, like mid 80s, pretty much every state legalized homeschooling, and Christian homeschooling was just taking off like crazy. And we talked too about the Quiverful movement back in the day. They were huge proponents of homeschooling, and a lot of homeschooling curriculum just comes right out of the Quiverful movement. So, because when your school's teaching girls that they can get a higher education and that they don't have to just be wives and mothers, you have to put a stop to that.
Wait, that's a thing?
That's a thing.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot of curriculums come out of the Quiverful movement.
Wow.
And that's one of their key things. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. The book that Moore's published was called Homegrown Kids, and then it became a curriculum. And
yeah. Let's pull our children into a closed system where they can never have things challenged, or ideas that they would never be exposed to otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just keep them in the bubble, keep them stupid.
Yeah, exactly. In 1983, this guy named Greg Harris used the Moore's model of homeschooling and created another curriculum and started promoting that. It just started to really pick up and go. These guys, this guy named Michael Ferris and Michael Smith were attorneys, and they fought a lot of states and governments for the right to homeschool, and even like not just the right to homeschool, but like pretty much hands off. Like, you can't tell us what to teach them even at home, so we can just teach them whatever we want, kind of thing.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Because the reason there are those curriculums are not because the government's like just arbitrarily deciding a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's pretty important for, prepping them for post-secondary education and for functioning in society.
Yeah.
There's pretty fundamental things that should at least be touched upon.
Yeah.
I always find it funny too, where they're just like, I don't want to send my kid to a public school where they'll hear about evil things like evolution and all this stuff, where it's like, well, if your convictions and your beliefs are that strong and you're able to communicate that to your children and you have confidence in those beliefs, why would you be so scared about them hearing about these things in a public school system?
Yeah.
I think it just speaks to the fragility of those like belief systems, and I don't fully understand that.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is in the 80s and 90s, you have the satanic panic, so you're afraid that the devil's trying to get into your schools, and you also have just more and more fear that the teachers are just, they have an agenda. They want to teach your kids that it's okay to be gay, or they want to teach your kids whatever, and it's like this evil building where they're just teaching you evil things.
The evil of accepting people
exactly
for who they are. Letting people do what they're going to do and getting out of their fucking bedroom business.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
no.
then there was the idea of sola scriptura, so the scripture only. The scripture is your main source of education, so it should be the cornerstone of what you're learning.
Right.
So that became big in a lot of these curriculums too. So
yeah, like curriculums get updated pretty regularly, right? Like things change, information changes, they learn better ways of doing it. These things are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
That's what you would hope. But let's ignore all that and teach them something from a book written thousands of years ago by some old dead guys that has no meaning or relevance to today.
I was watching this video today, and I'll post the link in the show notes, but they were interviewing a family who homeschools, and they were asked this one girl who's probably, I mean, I don't guess ages, but I would guess 10, you know?
Well, you just guessed ages.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
I'm probably very
You broke
wrong.
your own rule.
But they're like, okay, so you learn everything at home, and she's like, yep, okay, what's 12 times 12? And she's like, oh, I don't know that one. Okay, what's 6 times 6? She's like, I'm not sure. And like, okay, what's 5 times 5? And she just very confidently said 20. And then her mom's like, it's 25. And she's like, oh, whoops, this is embarrassing. And then the mom's like, very proudly, yeah, but now ask her what the books of the Bible are. Like that was more important. And
I mean, it's not. To be fair, I'm terrible. I never really got down my multiplication tables in that way where I could just recite it from memory.
Yeah.
I just never did.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been detrimental to me.
That's true.
That being said, I know how to do it.
I mean, yeah, it took me a second to think. I was like, oh yeah, 144, and then, but it's like, I get
you
that
can,
a kid.
You can do the math. You can figure it out. Yes.
Yeah. And people like James Dobson from Focus on the Family started promoting it as well as a good alternative to teach your children in a way that they won't, learn these evil lifestyles and
you gotta love where Focus on the Family really has no focus for families.
No.
or the people in them. No, it's just it's about focus on their agenda is what it should be called.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's good. There's a guy named Kunzman. I just wrote down his last name, but there's an author named Kunzman, and he's a professor, and he's like kind of outspoken against homeschooling. He kind of talked about some of the main reasons it picked up so far, like so much in fundamentalism, and one of them, cultural warfare. Mm-hmm. Like there's the culture's out to get your kids' minds, and so if you train them up right, then they're not gonna be succumb to the evils of the world, and
the evils of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Suspicion of government and professional authority. Oh, actually, I was watching another video too of this woman teaching her kid about global warming and how it's just a political issue, and like why global warming isn't a thing, and the kid's like, is evolution a political thing too? And she's like, oh yeah, not as much, but it's starting to be. And it's like, yeah, it was just gross to watch.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the family, focusing on the family and that family values and making sure that traditional family values hold up. And,
right.
The men go to work and the women stay home and clean, and we're going to teach that to our kids. And
well, again, it's like I was saying, being unqualified. It's people making wildly baseless claims about things.
Yeah.
Now you're teaching your children these exact same things.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to have a mistrust of everything in the rhetoric that's being said about these issues. I think it's important to be critical of them.
Oh, yeah.
And to question them. But to just outright say, oh, it's a political thing and it's not important and not real, that's a bit much.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, come on.
And of course, it just gave them an opportunity to promote the Bible and the biblical worldview.
Great.
Yeah. Vicki Garrison, she writes on the blog, no longer quivering, about leaving the quiver full movement. We talked about her on the quiver full movement, but she did an interview with Salon magazine, and she talked about kind of her experience raising her kids in the homeschooling world. I'm just going to read a quote. She said, "There is an atmosphere of real terror among some evangelicals. They are horrified by the fact that Obama is president," so this is an older interview, "and they see the new atheist movement as vocal in-your-face threat. Plus, they are obsessed with the end times and believe that the apocalypse could happen any day now. They see a demon on every corner." We homeschooled because we wanted to protect our children from what we viewed as the total secularization of America.
What are they worried about with the apocalypse exactly?
What does that actually do with schools? I guess.
Why are they afraid of it? Don't they want the apocalypse to happen?
Yeah, but they want their kids to be prepared for it. So if the kids aren't in the right mindset, then they'll be left behind and they'll have to deal with the apocalypse. Because you get taken up to heaven before every all the bad things.
Right. But didn't they go through the public school system?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're fine?
They're fine, yeah. But the demons hadn't taken over yet.
I don't know. There's always such fear about the apocalypse and like such worry about it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, isn't that what you want? Don't you want that eternal bliss? Don't you want to go to heaven and have all this in? So why are you so afraid of it?
Exactly.
Why are you doing everything you can to piss people off here? People who want to be here and enjoy this life because they know that this is what it is. Mm-hmm. And you just leave them alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Just spend your 60 to 80 years or however long you're going to live here. Live your fucking life. Leave everyone alone.
There was another quote in that same article from another person who went through homeschool. She said, when the school bus would come by, my youngest brothers would go, "There goes the prison bus." Our parents had them believing that public schools were a horrible place, just dens of iniquity. The narrative about the public schools went something like this. How would you like to get stuck in a building with no light and secular, godless, atheist teachers for 7 hours a day without even being able to see your parents or go out to play? Yeah, as a result, my brothers were terrified of public schools.
Can you imagine feeling the need to scare a child so badly by lying to them so blatantly about something just because you don't necessarily like that they one minor part of the curriculum?
Yeah. Even like when I was in public school, my friend argued with the science teacher when we were talking about evolution, and she would bring up Christian creationism arguments, and she must have been prepared ahead of time to like debate the teacher in class. And it's funny now because she's an atheist and we're still friends, and she's like so embarrassed by it.
I don't remember really dealing that much with evolution in school.
Yeah, maybe because I grew up in a small town with a lot of religious people, that
it was much more of an issue.
Yeah, much more of an issue.
I don't think I was, so I don't really remember much about it in school.
Yeah.
I learned about it through other means and
yeah,
from the internet and being curious about these things.
Yeah, I had to reteach myself as an adult of like how evolution works and stuff like that because I was like so opposed to it as a kid that I didn't take any of it in. And yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing too. I think there's also such a misunderstanding about what it is because of such it's we had sex with monkeys and then our uncle was a monkey.
Yeah,
like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's not what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why are there still monkeys then? It's like that's not how it works.
Not how any of this works.
Just look at dog breeds.
Yeah,
and how
exactly.
much they have changed over the last 100 years.
Yeah. And they did a really cool study, I think, in Russia with foxes and just breeding out foxes and like separating certain personality traits into the different barns.
What is that?
Yeah.
That's accelerated evolution.
Yeah.
Agriculture.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like even those flies that were stuck underground in the underground in London, how they evolved separately so that it can breed with the flies in the like above ground now, like because they became a different species.
And they're organisms reacting to their environments to better adapt themselves for survival.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's reasonable to assume that this could be a thing. I don't know. There's I think, well, again, it's this self-importance that people want to ascribe to it, right?
Oh, 100%. But believe it or not everybody loves homeschooling.
I don't believe it.
Oh. Okay, so one of the biggest issues is lack of oversight.
Yep.
So according to The Guardian, in a 2015 report from the Education Commission of I can't say education today.
You can't.
Commission of the state provides a closer look at state-by-state laws. 48 states require no background checks for parents who want to homeschool. 40 states do not require homeschooling parents to have a high school diploma. And 30% of homeschooling parents have only a high school degree or less.
Yeah. So that's the big problem here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge thing. I mean, if you're going to homeschool your child, you should definitely at least have, I would say, like a bachelor's degree or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Something. Like, come on.
Yeah, only 20 states require assessments to track the academic progress of students, and 12 require standardized tests, but most states do not require standardized tests, or they don't have consequences if you fail.
I feel like the people who are homeschooling who don't want this stuff are more afraid of being told that they're bad teachers and they're not teaching their kids what they need to be teaching them than they are of their children learning the things they need to learn.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you were teaching your kid at home because you had to or you needed to, at the very least you would be like, yeah, I want to make sure that my child is on track and that they're learning what they need to learn and that they're not being left behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You would think.
Yeah.
But it just seems like I know what to teach my kid and you can't tell me that I'm not teaching enough.
Yeah. 11 U.S. states don't require parents to notify the states that they are homeschooling. Like, how do you...
I guess if they just don't show up to school.
Yeah. So do you remember in January of last year when Mike Pence's wife took a job at a Christian school?
I don't.
Okay.
Actually.
So it was a very homophobic Christian school. She took a job there. Everybody said that was a very huge conflict of interest for the vice president's wife to be working at a Christian institution. And somebody started a hashtag expose Christian schools. And then people started telling their stories about just their awful experience in Christian schools.
Oh, really?
And then it spun off and people started tweeting expose Christian homeschool and expose Christian homeschooling. And so I'm going to pepper some of those tweets through these as we talk about some of the different issues and stuff with homeschooling.
Okay.
Yeah, so like it's not like when you homeschool, the government gives you just a curriculum like here's what you need to teach. You're allowed to just choose your curriculum.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of a lot of different variations on what kind of education people get in homeschooling, and because there's no oversight on it.
Oh man, that's so much work.
Yeah. I think in Canada you just have to say I'm homeschooling them, then that's it. There's no...
Yeah. But I mean, can you imagine taking on that workload?
Yeah. No,
for free?
Yeah. I know a lot of people had to do it or decided to do it during lockdown to keep educating their kids.
That's different.
Yeah.
That is okay. That is a situation where the schools are not open because of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that your children aren't falling behind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Valid.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like just in your normal day to day. Also, too, a lot of these parents weren't working because of this pandemic.
Exactly.
Too, so they had the time. But I mean, if you're working a full-time job or even a part-time job, or even if you're just a stay-at-home parent, like that's already a lot of work.
Yeah.
And now you want to make sure that you're getting your child educated as well.
Yeah.
That is so much work.
Yeah.
I won't do it. I'm too lazy.
No, thank you.
Too lazy to teach my kid. Kick him out.
Kick him out.
You're going to public school. You're learning all the bullshit that all the other kids are learning.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're going to hell. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'll see you there, son.
Exactly. From heaven.
From heaven.
One person tweeted, I don't think I'll read the Twitter's name, but you can always just check expose Christian homeschools or expose Christian homeschooling and read these tweets yourself. I just don't know if it's a good idea to say their names. Yeah. But these are real people. Unfortunately, my parents' standards were very lax. I took California Achievement Test, CAT, in 8th grade and 10th grade. My mom saw my failing scores and did nothing. Another person said the most important part of homeschooling was not to ensure that we got a high-quality education. It was to ensure that they were never exposed to any thoughts or beliefs outside of evangelicalism. We were taught just enough to debate liberals.
Just enough to debate liberals.
Yep. Chrissy Stroop I'll mention because she started the Exposed Christian Homeschooling, so she has a lot of cool stuff. I follow Chrissy C_Stroop on Twitter, but she said homeschooling is essentially unregulated in most states due to the lobbying efforts of the most notorious Christian right organization you've never heard of, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Under these conditions, neglect and abuse thrive. So yeah, there's just a lobbying group that fights government on any sort of oversight.
I mean, I'm not surprised. There are so many of those fundamentalist groups that
Yeah.
just lobby to keep their archaic bullshit ideals and
Yeah.
belief systems moving.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. Somehow they always have money and they're always funded. It's fucking insane.
Yeah. Another issue is bad education. Well, I guess it's under the same issue, but bad sex education and bad science education.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
Sex ed, from that same Salon article, the one person was talking about when she was 12, when she went to public school up until she was 12, so she got a bit of a sex education, but she was the oldest and her siblings did not.
Mm-hmm.
And when her sister was 21 years old, she had to have the talk with her a week before the wedding because she just had no idea how sex worked. And she secretly had the talk with her younger brothers just so that they knew like anything about sex.
Well, that's the sad thing too. It's that it's such a regressive kind of, people don't learn this stuff and you don't talk about it, and then of course you don't know about it because you're just kept in the dark. Yeah. And it's like a shameful thing that you're not supposed to know about.
Yeah, and it should not be a shameful thing, and when you create when you create shame around it, it opens the doors for abuse, for teen pregnancy.
Well, that's the thing. They say that with better sex education, so many of these problems that a lot of these fundamentalist groups have would be a lot better than they are.
Yeah.
Like teen pregnancy would be down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sexually transmitted diseases would be down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so much of this stuff can be prevented. Abortions would be down.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not your thing. Yeah.
Like, just teach a child about contraception, teach them about safe sex, teach them about everything that's going on. Because I mean, kids are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And teenagers are going to do whatever they fucking want.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter what you tell them, they're probably going to do it, as time has told us again and again and again. But if they understand other than, like, there are consequences other than just, oh, you'll go to hell if you do this.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they actually would, think twice, or at the very least be like, well, maybe I should use protection or be careful about this, right?
Yeah. One person tweeted, one of the reasons my parents chose to homeschool us for years was so they could keep info from us. My mother was furious when I learned the word vagina from my best friend at age 11.
Why would you be mad about that?
Yeah. And she went on to say, when a friend of my mom's briefly mentioned how babies are born in front of us, she tore into her friend about how she homeschooled us so she could control what we know. I asked her about the birth process as a 12-year-old, and she refused to tell me anything.
Can you imagine hiding something so fundamentally human from your children?
Yeah. Like, so fundamental as in just what the name of a body part that she has is. Like
can you imagine going through life and just having bits of you and you don't know what they are?
Yeah.
And you never know what they are because no one ever tells you. And if you ask about it, you're punished.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking nuts?
Yeah. It's insane. There's a lot more stories like that. Yeah. Young Earth creationism is in a lot of these curriculums. Mm-hmm. So one person said that they're at a co-op, which is like when they have different homeschoolers come together for like education things, and they would play actual science videos. But anytime they would have something that mentioned like carbon dating or evolution, they were encouraged to boo at the screen.
Okay.
Just, ridiculous. Another huge issue is what you mentioned at the top is isolation and lack of socialization. You've met a homeschool kid, and you know immediately they're a homeschool kid. I went to Iowa College with a few, and it was like that was their first time in a school outside of their home, and they are awkward.
You can definitely homeschool kids and still socialize.
Yeah.
There are tons of ways to do it, but it seems like a lot of times those avenues are never really explored.
Yeah.
And, you're so isolated, especially in today's day and age, you know, where everything is so connected too, like with the internet and everything. If you're not like exposed to any of that and you're just kind of there, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad news for your kid. You're setting them up for failure.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. There's ways that some people try to get around this, and that's what the co-ops and stuff are. But some parents, they're just so afraid of any sort of outside force that it's like they're basically the only other kids you see are your siblings. And
I thought you were supposed to have faith.
yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck?
Well, it's like somebody tweeted, like a Christian, like anti-masker tweeted about if you don't wear a mask, if you wear a mask, it's a sign that you're not trusting God, that God will protect you.
Right.
And someone commented, aren't these the same people that bring guns to the grocery store?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, I mean, if you have faith in your beliefs and everything, why would you be so scared of all this stuff? Like, why are you so insecure about your belief systems and all these things? Like,
yeah,
I mean, I would think that a good part of believing in something is to feel good and happy.
Exactly. To
and
have
not
some
constantly terrified and unsure about everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like we mentioned earlier, a lot of misogyny in a lot of homeschooling curriculum and just homeschooling in general. One, like, you hear stories about just if they mention maybe going to college, girls would just get yelled at, and like that's not an option.
that's a fucking systemic problem within the systems itself.
Yeah, it's true.
The schooling side of it is just a symptom of a larger problem.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Like one person was talking, or a few people actually talked about how, because at the end, when you graduate, you have to go get your GED in order to actually have a high school diploma. You can't just get a high school diploma from homeschooling. You have to actually go out.
Prints one off on the laser jet.
And that's what a lot of them would do, but it doesn't count anywhere.
No, of
and
course
so guys were encouraged to go get their GED, but a lot of times girls just weren't. So it'd be years later and they have to go back to school because, they've become their own person and decide that, no, I don't believe what my family taught me, but now they have to go back to the start and get their high school degree in order to get any sort of further education.
Would you be mad if you were going in for surgery and then you found out that your doctor went to medical homeschool?
Yeah.
And that his doctorate or her doctorate was printed out by their dad on their home printer, but they ran out of colored ink, so it's just kind of like a weird magenta color.
It's like on their wall when you're in the doctor's office.
Wait
like,
a minute.
Wait a second. That was like the time I was in the dentist's office and I was getting some work done, and I look over and I see her degree on the wall, and it was from a month before. And I was like, she was good though.
I mean, that doesn't bother me so much.
Yeah,
they'd
practice.
They probably know more than
That's
some
true.
of the doctors
That's
who've
true.
been teaching for or practicing for years and years and years.
Yeah,
it's all fresh.
Yeah, exactly. One person wrote, overheard at a homeschool skate as a kid, so probably just like a skating party. You don't need to teach your daughter algebra. They don't need it to be a wife and mother. Too many girls are given sub-8th grade education because they're seen as nothing but breeding stock.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's so depressing.
Yeah. One person said, listen, I'm not saying homeschooling in and itself is bad. I'm saying when we live in a country where it's legal to stop teaching your kid how to read at age 8 because she's a girl, something is fundamentally broken.
Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, abuse. Abuse is rampant in a lot of homeschooling.
I can only imagine.
There was a book called To Train Up a Child by a couple named Michael and Debbie Pearl, and it's basically kind of the whole spoil the rod, or spare the rod, spoil the kid.
Spoil the rod.
Spoil that rod. It's an anatomic carbon rod. But yeah, it's basically a guide on how to abuse your kids. And a lot of these homeschoolers use these methods to punish their kids.
I think it's funny because a lot of these parents would probably be so pissed if a teacher even alluded to anything like what they're thinking of doing that they would just do on a regular basis in their own homes.
Yeah. Chrissy again said, in only 2 states are convicted child abusers barred from homeschooling.
Wait. Okay. I'm surprised that they still have their children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't care about like
homeschool. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Why do they still have children?
Yeah. There's also a huge fear of child protective services within homeschooling communities.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And there's like somebody posted a picture of how to avoid the social worker. It was like a DVD they'd sold at a homeschooling convention. And yeah.
I can't imagine the mental gymnastics that you have to go through to be buying a DVD on how to avoid a social worker so you can safely abuse your children.
Yeah, it's disgusting. One person said, looking back in high school is painful. I had no adult who could see the signs of abuse. Nobody to say that the subculture I was in was twisting my mind. Ultimately, I was alone. And that's a big thing, too. When you're being abused, but you're also being homeschooled, who do you tell?
Nobody. There's no one you can.
Exactly.
And nothing says good Christian values like abusing your children.
Yeah.
And fucking them up for life.
Yeah. Another video I watched today was this girl talking about just the punishment she would get for simple things like her mom found a couple Britney Spears MP3s on her computer. And so that was a sign of evil. So she just got beat with a stick for an hour.
That's such a fear of ideas.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's really sad, yeah.
It's very, very sad.
Yeah.
That a song can hurt somebody or, make them so afraid.
Yeah.
Something so innocuous.
Yeah.
Something that's supposed to be uplifting and enjoyable.
Yeah. Just, you put it on in dance or you sing along with it. Yeah.
That's not to say that there aren't ideas that can be hurtful or dangerous. Because there are, for sure. At the same time, I'm not afraid of those things.
Yeah.
I can recognize when they are bad, and I will either get them away from me, or I will do something about it.
Yeah, you'll tweet angrily at whoever
Yeah.
had that idea. One person said, the cult in charge of my curriculum, IBLP, which is the Institute of Biblical Life Principles, put me through a 3-day military-style camp at one of our homeschool conventions, in which I was injured, insulted, and told my lack of coordination was a spiritual shortcoming. Which brings us to the Institute in Biblical Life Principles, which it was a curriculum and was a company led by a guy named Bill Gothard, which was basically like a giant cult of personality, and they all bowed to Bill Gothard, who, of course, was sexually abusing people. So not only...
There it is.
Yeah. Not only are these people being homeschooled, but when they are going to something where they should be meeting other people, they're being abused.
Yeah.
And he stepped down, but IBLP is still going, but they're still declining. They're losing more and more people, but yeah. So that's...
Are these belief systems holding on so firmly just because they want to be able to comfortably and safely mentally and sexually abuse children? Is that what these people are holding on to so fiercely for?
It feels like
because that's what it seems to be.
It's like the Catholic Church with taking no precautions, and continually promoting people who are abusing, and so many of these. Yeah, it's. I mean, is it a byproduct or is it the goal? It's like,
and I know it's not. I know it's not all people in these religions. I know it's not all Catholics. I know it's not that. But you would think that if this is something that is so pervasive and so present, you would do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or at the very least, try to do something about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it seems that it's just head in the sand until it happens in your own backyard. And then you're like, oh, well, now we have to get rid of this priest or whatever, or this person. But then, I mean, if they're in the church, they usually will just get transferred to another church.
Yeah. This guy stepped down, but I don't know if he ever got charged.
Probably not.
He resigned as president. There was an investigation. Civil lawsuit. Yeah, never charged. Civil lawsuit, though, but still, that's... any other thoughts on homeschooling?
I don't know. I'm just mad about it now.
Yeah.
And I think there is there's a lot to be gained from learning at home.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be gained from self-education or learning with your children.
Yeah.
And teaching them things or having them teach you things. I think this is all very important stuff. I think that it's important that some students do need to be homeschooled.
Yeah.
whether circumstance or their developmental or educational needs aren't being met in the normal school system.
Yeah.
That being said, the majority of cases, I do not think this is a beneficial thing.
No.
I think that it's just being abused by small-minded people who want to make sure that their children have just as small a mind as they do.
Yep.
It's scary how many people are okay with that.
Yeah, it's very scary. And the people who will get so angry and like even with the homeschooling hashtag, just the pro homeschool people who are commenting about like how it's not all homeschools. Some homeschools are good and stuff. It's like, yeah, great.
That's
but we
fine.
still need reform to make sure that the bad ones are not allowed to exist anymore.
It's just having accountability for it. Like, listen, I understand that you wanna teach your child because for whatever reason that's your prerogative. But you have to understand there should be some checks and balances here, man.
Yeah.
Like you have to know, like, the reason that people are being like, well, this is like some sort of curriculum. You want to make sure you're on track, but it's not just for you. It's for your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to make sure that your child is prepared.
Yeah.
But by you completely brushing that off and ignoring it, you're not preparing them for anything.
Yeah, for jack shit.
You're making it much harder for them.
Yeah.
And it's such a selfish... it's perverted, really.
It is, yeah.
It's this self-aggrandizing bullshit where they think that they know everything.
Yeah.
And you can't really be a true educator if you think you know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Should we do a Christian rock lyric?
Yeah, let's do a Christian rock lyric.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
Oh, my God. Okay, so... This song is on YouTube. A guy made his own music video.
Okay.
It's called The Evolution Song by a guy named David Rives. I couldn't find the lyrics anywhere, so I had to listen to this song over and over again to type it out. And I'm surprised my cat didn't just leave.
The song was that bad?
The song is really bad. And I think the worst part is it's obviously geared towards kids, which this kind of stuff makes me mad.
Well, it's okay, Trev, because kids are stupid.
That's true.
Especially the homeschooled ones.
Yes.
So
I could honestly just see them playing this at a homeschool.
And I got to say, I mean, if you're so constrictive and closed off with what your kids are allowed to listen to, I'm sure this song sounds great because they've probably never heard a good song in their fucking life.
That's true. Here we go. Protozoa is my name. I'm just a single cell. I'm sorry that I have no proof. Perhaps it's just as well. Of my beginning back in time when from a glob of goo, supposedly I started things, the end of which is you. For untold centuries, I thought that all was going well. Then I became dissatisfied as just a single cell. My fortitude, my guts and grit would stand me in good stead. I made this as my final goal to be a quadruped. I had to take a step by step and over centuries, but that was nothing, for I knew I'd turn out as I please. Ambition surged within my cell, down in my gloppy bod. By protozoan effort, I became a pollywog.
Okay, I'm going to stop you here because there's a few points that I want to bring up. One, the last one I want to say is this idea that evolution is a conscious choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is hilarious.
Like it has a goal in mind.
Yeah, there's just a single cell organism and it's like, you know what? I'd like to have some legs now.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And then the other, at the beginning of the song, can I see the lyrics for a sec? Protozoa, just a single cell, have no... Oh, proof.
Yeah.
The proof. This whole idea of that there is no proof for evolution, even though there are many different systems in place that show an adaptation and a change in species and how things progress over thousands and millions of years.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think that's proof for something, right?
Yeah.
It at least supports the theory.
Yeah.
However, creationism, there is absolutely no proof whatsoever.
Yeah. And the thing, creationists will always say, you didn't see it happen. You know, like, well, you didn't see this happen. You didn't see it change from one thing to another. So how do you know? And I don't remember what I was listening to. It was a podcast I was listening to recently, maybe Cognitive Dissonance or Scathing Atheist, but they were talking about, like, you've never seen a baby grow into an adult. You've never just been looking at a baby and all of a sudden it's an adult. So where do all the adults come from? Where are all the babies?
Yeah.
And it's just like, things gradually happen over time, and there's studies to prove it.
Well, it's just not even that. You didn't see God do this stuff. So how do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
The difference here is that there are systems in place that I can point to and say, oh, that's an example of selective mutations.
Yeah, and you can take evidence and then you can make predictions based on that evidence.
There are things out there that you can look at and point to and say, oh, well, this is why I believe this.
Yeah.
With creationism, there's nothing other than, oh, look how complex this thing is. Must have been a creator.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is such a, like, what? Like, how small does your mind have to be that you think that, well, if I can't make it myself right now, then it must be a creator who does it?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's not like it just happened like this instantaneously.
Yeah.
This stuff takes time.
Exactly. And like, it shows, like, there's signs that things take time, and there's, there's so much evidence, but there's no evidence that, like, a tree just popped out of nothingness. And just because a creator said, I want there to be a tree there. There's nothing showing that. We have trees with rings showing that they've aged over time, and we have variations of different species of trees. Like,
Yeah. Oh, there's a cat in my car.
Cute. But I think with that cat on the car, I think that's a good time to end it.
Yeah.
And say thank you, everybody, for bearing with us in this sad episode.
Yeah. I mean, and if you have kids out there, talk to them, educate them.
Yeah.
Teach them about, wieners and vaginas.
Yeah, exactly.
And, teach them about evolution, or don't teach them about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't believe it, why don't you maybe look into it a little yourself?
Yeah, maybe
educate yourself a bit before you really shut down on it.
Yeah. And maybe just put some Cardi B on. Play that WAP. They'll understand how sex works. And that'll be that. And now they'll know how it all works.
Well,
that's my advice for you today. And Damien is nodding in agreement that he thinks it's the best advice I've ever given.
I mean, they probably already heard it anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would necessarily say that that's the best sex education.
Oh, that's how I learned. Anyways, thanks everybody.
Wait. You just learned now when that came? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that tracks. All right, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Work, Sky Moon.
Okay. Oh, I didn't write down the guy's name, so I'm just going to Google it real quick.
Jesus Christ.